Welcome to episode 9 of Uncharted Horizons. I'm Nicole. That's Brayden. If you're here, you probably know that. This week we're talking about our favorite games of all time, starting from the NES up till current gen. And my opening question for Brayden was, since we're talking pretty much consoles and handhelds, what is his favorite PC game? Or something that was only playable, I guess, on PC, you know, back in the day, those CDs and such.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because I obviously, I play a lot of stuff on PC now, but it's different from back in the day where, you know, it was a lot more limiting. Or maybe not more limiting, but, the games were not at the level they're at now, and I feel like I remember playing, games like Doom on PC back, the OG Doom, back when I was, 10, 9, maybe, 2002, because my dad had it. Doom was obviously really fun and kind of an enjoyable one, but honestly, I feel like I remember playing, Oregon Trail, even back in the day, going back to, elementary school, and it's hard to pick a computer game, because I don't know that I really played anything on PC when I was younger that, really kind of stuck with me, where I'm I gotta go back and play this today. And I was more of a Nintendo person growing up. Obviously, Nintendo didn't have anything on the computer.
What about Pajama Sam?
Pajama Sam, well, first of all, Pajama Sam is fun. I played Pajama Sam last week on a stream, and it was extremely... The game hasn't aged
challenging.
Well. I would say challenging is a fair assessment.
Because, it's a kid's game, and you got pretty stuck.
It's kids in, the 90s, when everyone was doing, LSD and stuff, and it was just easier to, process things with existential thought, because... I don't know if you... I mean, you probably saw part of the stream. I know Brian was here for it. Other people were here for it. It was just endlessly clicking, and you have to be super specific, and I don't know.
Point and click games as a genre though are just fantastic. That's a lot of what I played on computer, not as CD games, but just websites like Newgrounds and stuff, if anyone remembers that. I think they're probably still running. They had a pretty big platform for uploading creative content, animation and clips and stuff, along with their games.
Yeah, I guess I just never really played a ton of them. Doom would be the one I would pick, to be honest with you, because I think Doom as a whole is easily the one I enjoyed the most. So that would be my selection, would be Doom.
Nice.
My question for you is, let me see, I'm reading my note here. All right. What are your thoughts on the teaser for Deadpool 3 and Hugh Jackman returning to the MCU for Wolverine? Are you in? Are you out? Where do we stand on that?
Oh, definitely in. My friend had messaged me the Deadpool logo that had the 3 slashes across it, and he was like, Hugh Jackman's back, confirmed for Wolverine. I was like, bro, Hugh said he's done, sending me this art doesn't, that doesn't confirm Hugh's back just because Wolverine's in Deadpool 3. I'm like, that could literally mean anything. And he's like, no, really, Hugh's back, and then sent me the trailer, and I was like, you should have sent me that first, because that's the thing that actually confirmed it. And, Hugh Jackman even posted it on his, so I was like, oh shit, they're serious, which is kind of nuts. No, yeah, I'm definitely in. I loved Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and I respected the fact he was done, because it's a very taxing role to play, as we've seen with a lot of roles with Dave Bautista being done with Drax, because it's just very taxing on their bodies to stay in that kind of shape for a Marvel film. But no, yeah, definitely super excited. I could see them getting really goofy with it, because it is Deadpool. I don't know how serious it's gonna be to have Wolverine back, or if it's gonna be super obvious, them talking about him being done as Wolverine, because they kind of did that in their second trailer they did today, where they were like, we're gonna clear up your questions, this is before Logan, don't worry, we're staying canon, and then the rest of the questions get blurred out with some music.
Yeah, I thought it was funny you can't actually hear anything, and I know people have been pumped for Wolverine to return to the MCU, and I have to say that I feel as though it would be kind of cool to see a different take on the character, a different person, if they're going to go forward with it, because if this is really a one-time thing that he's coming back to play the character, then what does that mean for the future of that? But, we have the multiverse thing going on. There's a million other different angles that they could take with it. So I'm excited about it for what it means for Deadpool 3 as a whole. But I'm also
out to 2024, which is also interesting.
2024? Why do I think it
I
was
think I believe
2023?
so.
I might have misread it,
I remember
honestly.
the date being like, oh, like that's kind of far, and that's quite a long time for Hugh to continue playing Wolverine if we were gonna get him and anything else.
Yeah, you're right.
I
It is
honestly,
2024. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him in anything else. Like, I don't think that him being in Deadpool 3, it means like, oh, he's back for the MCU roles. It's like I don't think it means that. I think if that was an opportunity, they definitely would have like they could be. I could be wrong, and he could be in like Secret Wars or something, but I also don't. I would not be shocked if we didn't. I don't know if I told you, but I was telling my friend I could see them using Deadpool 3 and how Deadpool breaks the fourth wall a lot or third wall to be like, all right, like now that you're gone, like who's replacing you? And then having like either the new Wolverine actor or like ushering in the X-23 era of the girl Wolverine that we met in Logan and having her take it on the role, which would be great because that actor or the actress is at time now and she's like old enough that I think she could definitely like play a pretty significant role in upcoming movies if they wanted her there.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. I liked her. I liked Logan as well. It was just sort of like a very sad kind of like it was a classic movie, but it didn't leave me like I don't know. It's just a weird one. It's like one of those movies where it's like it was really enjoyable, but it was also just kind of like a sad, like heavy movie that kind of took a lot out of you as a fan.
Surprise with Logan, that like how where they took it, and it kind of I believe it came out like in between their reboot with the younger cast of X-Men, so like getting to see him and like the old Charles Xavier that we know and like how their story ends was just oh god, it's so good as its own movie too. Like not knowing anything else about X-Men, it's just like a really like sad story, but done very well.
Yeah, and I liked it a lot, and I'm excited about this whole thing. And I know there's talks that Brad Pitt's going to be potentially returning to for Deadpool 3, which I thought was interesting because he played the cameo role. But who knows? I don't know. I like Deadpool 2. I think it was really good, and I'm actually kind of excited to see where they go with it. But if it's true that you know it is part of the MCU and all of that now, obviously with the ending of the way Spider-Man and Venom have been set up and everything, where they are bringing these characters over, then I'm interested to see like what tie-in, if any, it has, because I just can't picture Deadpool as a serious character like interacting with what I assume is going to be a more serious plot line when you know
I think their
Kang
stuff in the
Dynasty
comics
comes out.
together is probably pretty light just because of Deadpool and his nature.
Yeah, which is okay. It's just like
No, yeah, it'll be like I'll be very surprised if they take it seriously. If they do take it serious, it'll be like the very serious Wolverine, like dealing with the fucking hyperactive Deadpool and just being like, dude,
yeah.
just like not dealing with this shit the whole movie.
So I like the comedy aspect of Marvel a lot. I think it's enjoyable. I mean, I don't know if you saw Thor: Love and Thunder. I think you did because I might have talked to you about it when we first before we started the show. I liked that movie, but I had a lot of complaints with it in the sense that like it was a great movie to like sit down and watch, but like I didn't like how the topic of the movie involves something very dark and sad and in terms of like what's ailing the main characters, and it's just very lighthearted and joking the whole time, where it's like I don't know how I'm supposed to feel as a fan watching this. Like you're telling me this is a terrible thing this person's going through, but then you're also trying to like laugh at everything, and I just like if the characters don't care, why would you, sort of thing. But I mean we could always dive into that topic on we haven't even really touched on Marvel yet, so we're gonna do that at some point too. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. Obviously that's some big news. I don't think there's been much else in the world of gaming this week news-wise that we haven't hit on. We did talk last week about the Assassin's Creed leaker and the GTA leak and stuff, and obviously the person who was behind the GTA leak was arrested this past week by the FBI, and from what I understand, it was a 17-year-old hacker in London.
That's impressive.
Which, well, yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, you would think that I've seen all the memes and jokes that now the FBI is going to hire that person to help with, you know, interrogating and doing all the other stuff because of the skill set. And they do think this is the same person who was associated with the hack of Uber. So, like, these are two big companies. But apparently it is tied to, like, a larger hacking group or organization. So that was an interesting development in that story. I don't know what penalties, if any, this, you know, what the penalty is going to be for this kid or what's going to happen, but it is interesting to think that like a massive company like Rockstar was able to be hacked by a 17-year-old hacker, and it brought a lot of information out there. So just an update on that story that we covered. But yeah, I think we can probably jump into the main topic here.
Yep. I'm just
And
pulling up our.
absolutely.
Actually, I probably won't need it because you'll probably have the stuff on the screen, but just in case.
Yeah, I do. So obviously we start off with
Nice.
NES, for our favorite games by system. And just a quick shout out, guys. Thanks to everyone who has followed us. We are running a giveaway currently on Twitter, trying to give back and sort of, give back to the community. We're giving out a Steam gift card. That giveaway actually runs through September 30th, so it'll end Friday. We are at 97 followers, which is kind of crazy. So thank you so much to everyone who has followed. We are very close to meeting the eligibility for affiliate. I think we need, like, after this stream, like, one more stream and maybe, like, another hour of content, so that'll be easy. I can knock that out with a bonus stream or something. But that'll give us opportunities for a lot more fun stuff, like channel points and different other things we can do and different types of interactions. So, yeah, thanks so much for that. And thanks to everyone who has followed, even if it was just for the gift card. And hopefully you guys will pop in and maybe you'll find something you enjoy that we talk about at some point. So, yeah. I also, well, speaking of which, Zalo just followed, as I live and breathe. So thank you so much for the follow there, Zalo. Name's blocked a little bit by the NES console there. And you can see our socials down in the section. I sort of revamped and cleaned that up a little bit on the screen there. So we've got the Discord and then our socials, and obviously you can follow Nicole's Twitch too, right above her name, and my YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks again to everybody, and thanks again for the follow. Let's jump into it with NES. I'm going to let Nicole go first, but before I do, I just wanted to set the precedent that for a few consoles that are going to come up here, we sort of combined them into one. So, like, Wii and Wii U is one category, Xbox One and Xbox Series X. We did that, like, you can pick either or, just because, like, there's a lot of crossover between those. There's not as many exclusives. And yeah. So we just wanted to sort of put that out there.
Didn't own one of those.
Oh, that's true, too. Yeah, you had, your Xbox stuff was, a little bit... blank for certain things.
No, it wasn't blank.
We'll talk about it as we get there. So yeah, do you want to go ahead and start us off here with your NES pick?
Yeah, so for NES, and I actually still own this today, which is cool because my dad held on to his console, so this was his, and I don't know when the NES came out year-wise, but I was definitely a child, like very small child. But yeah, Paperboy was my pick. So I don't know, he had like a bunch of like racing games and like that kind of stuff, which I didn't play, but I remember playing Paperboy because as a concept that was pretty simple for me to have played whenever, how old I was. It was definitely young. But yeah, if you haven't played Paperboy, it's really simple. You literally ride a bike and throw papers at people's front door. And you have to, like, obviously, like, drive the bike and not hit potholes and cars and stuff and try to get the newspaper, like, onto the front porch exactly where it belongs. And that's the entire game. But that's, like, the one I have the most memories of, so that's the one I picked, since that's not really a console that I had spent a lot of time with. But yeah, I still own that and the game today, so that's pretty cool.
Interesting. I have never played Paperboy. I mean, I've heard of it, obviously, but I have never played it.
I think they have it at Free Play now, so you can probably go check it out then. Yeah, I'm pretty sure last time I was there.
I did not know that. Well, mine for NES is Super Mario Brothers 3. Probably my favorite of the Super Mario Brothers games on NES, and generally speaking, a game that I think is still relatively well held up today. As a disclosure, obviously the NES was out before I was born. I didn't play a ton on the NES, so my selection is limited. Obviously, wanting to pick something I actually played and had some hands-on experience with. The OG Zelda and some of that other stuff is like a fun sort of significant thing, but it just never really did it for me. Maybe that's just because I like when they started to 3D a bit more, if you will. When you get into N64, and that was really my generation of games. So Super Mario Brothers 3, I can't speak today. Super Mario Brothers 3 is a super fun game, and definitely one of the stronger entries in the Mario franchise. So that's my pick for NES, based on just a limited selection.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with Mario too. I probably have played more time with Mario because it's obviously accessible in so many places to play the old Mario games. But I just picked one that I could knew I personally owned and stuff. But I think a lot of the Mario stuff is just like a given as the best games on some of these consoles.
Yeah, and some are not as strong as others in terms of the consoles themselves, but I think for the most part, that is a good one. So, yeah, that's NES. Let's move to SNES. And,
So I said when the dog chased you, yeah, there was a lot of, it's quite hard. If you go back to play Paperboy, there's some things. There's ramps in your way, and just you can get hit by a car, dogs. It's a great time.
All right, so for SNES, which one would you say is your favorite there?
My favorite from that one was Donkey Kong Country.
Okay.
So I don't believe we owned an SNES, so I don't know where I played this, but I looked up the like best SNES games to like, okay, like which games are on this console, which ones did I play? And I definitely played Donkey Kong Country, but I ended up looking it up and I believe it's been ported a few times. So I think I played it on something else, but it came out for SNES, so that's why I'm counting it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with Donkey Kong Country. I think those games are great, and I think I also picked Donkey Kong for something else later, but it's okay. It was a fun side scroller that I had a lot of fun with. I feel like a lot of that generation of games, including onto like the Game Boy Advance, were like those just like side scroller, like run around, do that kind of stuff games, and I definitely remember playing this one a lot.
Yeah, I've played very little of the OG Donkey Kong Country, but I really like Donkey Kong on N64 and some of the subsequent titles. Other than like the one with the bongos, was that Donkey Konga, I think. Never really got super into that one, but I remember seeing the drums everywhere when I was growing up, and that's just, you know, GameCube was one of the launch titles, I believe. But Donkey Kong Country is definitely a fun one. It's hard too, like it's a tough game. Which, I mean, a lot of those old SNES and NES games in general were a lot more difficult just because of, I don't know if it was like limitations with, you know, graphical or the way the planes were structured, but either way they were all pretty tough for that time. And sorry, I'm trying to troubleshoot live as we go why some of these things are not transitioning as they should be. Okay, so for me here, why? Sorry guys. This is like I've done this 1,000 times. Come on now. It's just not taking it. Okay, beautiful. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. This game is a gem in every sense of the word. Not only is it extremely hard, like it's a rare game that's worth a pretty good amount. It's set the stage for a lot of other Mario-based RPG titles in the future, like Mario and Luigi. And there were a few on GBA. I think it was Dream Saga or Superstar Saga, maybe. I didn't play the Game Boy ones, but I did play this one, and it is extremely fun. It's not a full-fledged RPG. There are a lot of elements of platforming style approach like in Mario games, but it sort of was a hybrid of the two, and it was really just a really fun game that I would love a remake of, or like a remaster sort of thing to be like brought, maybe like remakes are either hit or miss, but like I want to see them do something new with Mario in the RPG field, if that makes sense, because
I don't think I've heard of this one, Legend of the Seven Stars.
Yeah, so you said you don't think you've heard of it?
I don't think so, no, not by the Seven Stars name.
So I don't know if, yeah, this is the only one in terms of, like, games, Super Mario RPG, and it came out back in, I'm looking at the actual release date, 1996, so it's, you know, it was a while ago, obviously, but it was sort of, one of the later titles on the SNES, and it's well regarded by a lot as a great game. Again, my SNES experience is limited. I haven't played like everything on the system, but I've played a little bit more on SNES than I did on NES, obviously. And I used to have one of the retro consoles that was like, you know, the knockoff like Super Nintendo. Oh, they even actually they released the Super Nintendo Mini, if you remember that, which GameStop probably had back in the day, and they were all scalped and hard to find. But this was one of the games that was on there, and it's definitely a really fun one. I recommend this to anybody. It's just a really fun take on an RPG with a lot of the traditional elements of Mario games that sort of make it stand out. So yeah, I like that a lot. It's definitely a big fave for me. All right, I think I've actually fixed our issues now, so
yeah, it ended up updating.
Yeah, no, I figured out why, but all right, N64, it's up to you.
Yep, N64, Donkey Kong 64. I don't know if this is my real answer.
I'm noticing a trend.
I've been like asking for Donkey Kong 64 every time that Nintendo does a update for like ever now, and I feel like so is everyone else. This is the one that went 3D, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. So this is the one I owned. My grandmother actually owned that cool, like, green see-through one with, like, and it had, like, the yellow cartridge for Donkey Kong 64, so I feel like that like picture's just like ingrained in my mind. So anytime I went over there, I was like, "Can I play? I want to play the N64." So I'd end up playing Donkey Kong, and yeah, that game's great. And I don't know what Nintendo's doing. They have to be doing either a remaster or like anything, but like just port it. Like why? Why? It's just so easy. Just give it to us. The people want it. I'm still holding out hope.
This is true because you could even put it on the Switch Online service like they've done with a lot of those other games, right? Like
they could literally just port it and like charge money for it, and people would still buy it. So like, there's just no reason not to. It might be an IP thing, but like, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they own Donkey Kong, so I don't know.
I don't know either. Zalo just said, first time chat in the comments. Thanks so much. Great to have you. Said Star Wars Shadows of the Empire is something I remember playing a lot.
On N64? Ooh.
I don't know that I've ever heard of that game, which I don't know. Have you? I mean, you're the Star Wars expert here.
No.
Now I gotta...
I was too young for that, you know? Like, whatever I was exposed to for these younger ones is like what like my parents or my grandparents had for me to play. It wasn't like I wasn't able to buy my own console until I think the PS4, like with my own money.
Really?
So,
That's true. That's true. You are, you know, significantly younger than me, like
yeah.
4 years. Shadows of the Empire
is
Shadows of the Empire is on N64 and PC, and it looks like it's got some pretty good reviews. I've never heard of it. It's a third-person shooter game, and yeah, it looks cool anyway. I do feel like there's a lot of those older Star Wars games that don't get like that, you know, that I don't even know about. I mean, you ever played KOTR, which I want to go back and play at some point, and obviously, like, I remember, was it like X-Wing? Like, there was like an X-Wing game on N64 too. It was like an X-Wing racer, or no, it was Pod Racer. I don't know if you remember ever playing Star Wars Pod Racer.
No, this is Pod Racing.
That was a fun one, and I still have never seen the first movie, but I know.
You know what I'm quoting.
No, I mean, I know, but I thought I would just kind of nod and agree. All right, mine is Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is easily the most funny, enjoyable N64 game I ever played, and I will go on record and say that as much as I
already guessed that.
I don't know if she guessed it or if she just has a good taste in games. Either way, that's like Conker's Bad Fur Day is amazing. Now, I played this game for the first time when I was like 10, so I was like cool because I was, you know, not literally, but like as you can tell, but I was like, oh, there was swearing and all that other stuff going on, and I was like, haha, I'm playing this. Like, but if you get past the game's like raunchiness or whatever, it's a really fun. Like, it had a fun multiplayer mode, it had a great, goofy story, and Conker as a whole is just, he's just such a cool character that I wish they had done more with. They did make Conker Reloaded on Xbox, which was essentially like a remake of this game. It was, like, graphically upgraded with a few differences, but it doesn't, I mean, the original is just such a great game, and, yeah, it's just, Rare was just in its element for so long, and it's a shame that like we don't see as much from Rare now as we did back in the day, obviously after Microsoft acquired them, and other titles like Banjo and Kazooie, which definitely deserves like an honorable mention as a good title on here, and Donkey Kong as well. Just a great era of games. I think Rare definitely dominated N64, but Conker's such a great game. I want to own a physical copy of it again someday. It's a really pricey, I'm pretty sure it's like over $100 for the game now, because it's just, you know, I guess harder to find, but also really popular, and there were some parents outraged by it back in the day and whatnot, but, you know, it did have an M rating, and, like, you know, it's one of the few, I don't think there's that many N64 games that even had that M rating, now that I think about it, so that alone is a standout for me. But yeah, Conker's is super fun. Highly recommend to anyone who hasn't played it.
It's a console I want to get, but don't own yet.
What's that? N64?
N64. Yeah, I have some of like my retro stuff still, but I want the N64.
Yeah, my roommate and I had one forever, and it just stopped working. I don't know if the pins broke or what. Like, we've been talking about getting a new one at some point just to have, but like, it's obviously like N64 has a couple of really good titles, but overall is not the best system. I have a lot of nostalgia for it personally, but it's just kind of like most of the games on N64 don't hold up outside of a small handful. So it hasn't been a priority, but man, I would love to play Conkers again, and I guess I could emulate it, but it's just sort of one of those games where it's like, it's such a great, fun, silly game to play through, and, you know, as a kid I liked it, and as an adult I think it still holds up really well. Okay, next is GameCube, which is my favorite system of all time, far and away, and let's see what you gave us.
Did you own a PlayStation 2?
Did I own a PlayStation 2? Yes,
Yeah,
I had.
the best-selling console of all time. In case you forgot.
Yeah, no, yeah, I probably the pre-Skyrim system there. My dad was very much into buying all the systems. Whether we could afford it or not, he would always buy them. And
priorities, and that's
PS2 is fun, and I'll PS2 is cool. It's a good.
It's the best-selling console of all time for a reason.
It's a good system with a lot of great games, but it does not hold a candle to GameCube, in my personal opinion. I think GameCube, and it may be because I played GameCube more. I gravitated towards playing games with friends on GameCube more, so like they'd all come over and the four of us could play Mario Party. I mean, this was a hard one to pick because all the Mario Party titles on GameCube are fucking fantastic. Paper Mario on GameCube. Super Mario Sunshine's a little but like there's the Pokemon games. Like I could sit there and tell you why I love GameCube, and the one that I'm not gonna steal your thunder, so your game you can intro here is one of my favorite games ever, so yeah, go ahead and tell us.
Super Monkey Ball.
Oh, it's classic.
That game, yeah, so this is also one I still currently own. My aunt and uncle gave me their GameCube just because like they didn't play with it anymore, and the only games I was given were Super Monkey Ball, I think Super Monkey Ball 2. It might not be 2, it's like Pro, it's something. And then Double Dash, or whatever Mario Kart was on GameCube. Was that Double Dash?
Yes, Double Dash.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't have that anymore. Don't ask what happened to it. I didn't sell it or nothing. So now I only have Super Monkey Ball. But no, this game is a lot of fun. It's super frustrating, but I don't know, I still find it pretty charming, even to play today. I feel like I've played it somewhere recently. I don't know if they made it into like an app or something. I feel like they did. Or did something on like a later console, but yeah, I don't really have a bunch of memories on this. My honorable mention was Super Smash Bros. Melee, which, as Missouri said, was the only game I've ever played on the GameCube. That's obviously a classic and super important for a lot of people, and it's a great game too, but like Super Monkey Ball is one I played a lot.
And super overrated as well. I just want to throw that out there.
I mean, it's not.
Just like the lowest tier of Smash games.
That's just like
I would never critique someone. Obviously, people like what they like. I just poke fun. I never got the Melee hype. Like Melee was really cool when it was out, and then they released like the Wii one, which was like, Brawl was okay. But then the one on Switch and on Wii U, which technically, Brawl, not the one after Brawl, sorry. It's just so much better in every way. Like they just expanded upon everything. But you have these diehards in the competitive Smash community that are like
that still play Melee.
What'd you say?
That still play Melee.
Yeah, but not that they still play Melee. I don't care what you play, but they argue that Melee is the best one. And I just, objectively speaking, like
I think it's hard to know without having played competitive, because like my friends that played competitive, that's like a whole different game for them. Like the way they talk about it is not how I play those games. I pick the fun-looking characters, and I know how to hit, and I know how to, like, obviously move around and stuff, but, like, they got, like, up smash and down smash. I'm like, what? I'm just punching you. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, so they take it to a whole different level, and I think it means something more to them, like, on the back end of the mechanic-wise that it does to me. So I think there might just be, like, something that, like, we're just not getting because we don't play it that way.
Yeah, and I know basic combos in Smash, and I mean, I'm not like I'll avoid like I know the overall pro competitive community for Smash in the past couple of years have been filled with some questionable people at the top level. But I do find the game really fun. I never got the Melee hype fully, but if hey, people like what they like,
But monkeys and balls, right?
Super Monkey Ball, I adore that game. I think 2 is just a little bit better, and only because it had so many more levels. But I used to play, like, there was the multiplayer modes on that you could play with friends, where it was like, you'd have to, like, go down the ramp and fly out to the islands and see who could get the farthest and do all the little challenges. I think I played that game on, so it has like, beginner, median, and expert, and the expert levels are fucking brutal. Like, after the first, like, 4, they just become extremely difficult, where you gotta throw your controller through the screen. But I remember my friend and I got through almost all of it on expert, and it was just, it's really fun, but really challenging. I want to play that game again. I know Banana Blitz came out on the Switch, actually, which was basically like they took like the first 2 games with a few like bonus levels or something. That game is something I really want to try. But mine, I'll show you the physical copy first before I actually pop it up on screen here. Mario Kart Double Dash easily takes it for me. I adore this game. It's my favorite Mario Kart by far, but I will acknowledge it is not the best. Obviously, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is basically perfection in the kart racing genre. But I played this game growing up, and I always thought the whole tandem thing with, like, you and another, like, having two characters and switching them and how the weight differentiated the car. Double Dash as a whole is just such a good game. And even though it is, like, a lot of nostalgia for me, the whole tag team mechanic and being able to, like, choose the way you play and play with friends, but also just, I can't say enough good things about how much I enjoy this game. And it's one of the few GameCube games I actually own. I've said this on previous shows, like, I really want to own more GameCube games just for collection purposes. They're all so expensive, and it's because people in our generation, you know, probably a little bit more me than you, but, like, there's not that big of a gap, grew up with GameCube when we were kids, and now we're, like, making our own money, and everyone's buying these things. I want to own these things. Like you saw it with PS1 forever. Like, PS1 stuff peaked so much, and I mean, a lot of it's still really high, and will probably stay that way for any big name stuff, but now with GameCube, it's going in the same direction, and there's so many titles that would be really cool to own that, you know, I mean, you go Skies of Arcadia, Fire Emblem, what is it, Chibi Robo, I think, is another one, like, all $100 plus, almost $200 on some of them games, and it's just like, GameCube has been hit by the market, and the pandemic probably didn't help that either, but Double Dash is easily my favorite, and I'm still pretty good at it. Not great inherently at a lot of video games, but weirdly enough, the two that are on the screen currently are some of my stronger performers, so if you ever want a 1v1 in Monkey Ball, you know, see what happens. But that's mine on this one, so let's move on to the next one. The Wii. And the Wii U. They're together here. I
ignored the Wii U.
I just put it under Wii. Well, you know, a lot of people did, and that's the problem. The Wii U is a great system. It was
redundant.
No, it was not redundant. You know why the Wii U
There was like 3 games that were actually developed for the Wii U that people liked.
The Wii U was a fantastic system, and parents had Nintendo did not market it well at all. They didn't say it.
Look where they ended up, though. They were close. They had the Wii U walked so the Switch could run.
The Switch barely runs! What do you mean? Nothing fucking runs on the Switch. I would bet the Wii U might have had almost equal processing power.
You know, I can't argue that.
I loved the gamepad, and honestly, the Wii U as a whole, like you said, it was poorly marketed. Parents didn't know it was a new system, and that was, you know, who the target audience was buying it for their kids. They just thought it was a Wii Pro or, you know, the Wii U. There was nothing to distinguish it, and that system as a whole, I still feel like is significantly underappreciated in the gaming world. Because obviously, yes, the Switch just did a lot of what it did, but the Wii U, it had a lot of fun games on it. Mario Maker, you know, Splatoon, like tons of stuff that came out on that time that I just think are kind of underappreciated. But that's you know, again, another topic for another thing. I don't want to give too much of that away, but you go ahead. I don't know what this is.
Monkey Ball?
No.
Oh, there it goes. I picked this one because I knew most people might not know what it is, and I've played a lot of Wii, so, like, I feel like Wii was, like, the first console that my brother and I owned where we were both, like, old enough to, like, actually enjoy a bunch of games, so I still have our entire Wii collection. I probably have, I don't know, over 30 games, and I still have the Wii, just because, like, we kept it and never got rid of any of them.
Yeah,
Endless Ocean is literally, like, my dream as a child. Like, I grew up wanting to be a marine biologist, so, like, when this game came out, and I don't even know how I acquired it, like, the best thing you could ever imagine. And for it to be a Wii game, like, it was awesome. Like, you were a character on a boat, and you would take the boat different places and then go diving, which is, like, what the entire point of the game was. Literally just, like, free scuba diving, and you would just find sea life, like, record things, like, interact with them, take photos. And it sounds like it would look really shitty, but I feel like if you looked it up, you'd be, like, pretty impressed that that type of game was on the Wii. And they actually came out with a sequel, which I bought recently. Like, recently, I mean the past few years, that I haven't played yet.
Really?
So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I would, like, so wish I had a PC and a capture card so I could, like, stream shit like that. But yeah, Endless Ocean was very cool. It was, like, scientific, too, so it wasn't just like, oh, yeah, look at that manta ray. Like, if you interacted with it and the more, like, you did, you would get, like, more facts about the animal. But I also remember it being a source of my nightmares. There was a part of the game where if you went down deep enough, you would enter the abyss. Pitch black.
Really?
Just darkness. And you'd have your flashlight as you're scuba diving, and, like, literally pitch black, and this fucking, like, evil, like nasty ass looking shark would like swim by, or like whale carcasses, and it was terrifying for me. And I was old enough to not be terrified of a video game at that point, but it was scary. And would I be scared in the real life if I was swimming in a dark abyss? Yes. So I think it was just, I don't know, I think they did it really well. And I want to get back and play the sequel someday because it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely very cool game. And then my shout out for that one was Mario Party 8, because like that was like my solo game. But as far as like what I played with my friends, what I played with groups was Mario Party 8, and that was a fucking great Mario Party if you got a chance to play that one.
So it's really funny that you say that, and I promise I'm not just like saying this about your balls. I despise Mario Party 8. Like, I love that, and 9. 9 was worse.
No, I don't remember I remember not being super enthused with 9, but I feel like 8 had a lot.
So the reason I didn't like 8 is because, and this is just I love the Mario Party games as a whole, for disclosure. I think they're wicked fun. Like, I recently have been playing the one on Switch with friends, but like the GameCube ones are gems. I didn't like 8 because it felt like that was the one with the game board, right, where everyone's all in the boat, and you're all moving together at the same time. The one on the Wii, right? No?
I don't believe so. I looked up to make sure I had the right one.
Hold, please, while I do live research.
You're playing on a board, but you're not moving together. They had, like, Goomba's Boardwalk on that one. They had... I'm trying to think of, like, the other maps. They had, I think, like, Boo's Castle.
Hold on.
They had...
Hold, please. I'm doing a little bit of quick research live on the fly. Maybe I'm thinking of Mario Party 9.
Yeah, because I remember not liking 9, and 8 was, like, the classic that we always played, and that one had... I don't know, I feel like the mini games and stuff. It might just be the only one we had, and that's why it's my favorite, but I feel like when I played the other ones, and especially, like, the most recent Mario Party they did, I was very, like, underwhelmed with it. And, like, their Superstar thing that they came out with was better than their new Mario Party.
So, have you played the Switch one? The one that came out, like, a year ago, or a year and a half ago?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. They came out with the new Mario Party, but then they came out with the All-Stars, Superstars, whatever it was, where they made, like, the old maps into a new game. That was better than the actual, like, new Mario Party they made recently.
Yeah, so the one that's on Switch, the most recent one, Mario Party, I think it's called Superstar, if I'm right, has basically all the maps from all the old games. You can unlock them, and then all the mini games from all the old games, and they, like, mix up, and you kind of play. And then I think there's a few, like, tweaks, and they basically remastered. That one's really, really fun. I like it a lot. Yeah. I just remember after 7 and up until the Switch one, I just felt like Mario Party went significantly downhill for a little while. And I think it was just because it kind of lost the core of what made it fun. But I maybe misremember. The one on the Wii, there might have been 2, so maybe that's why. I just remember one of them that came out for the Wii U, and it had a Mario amiibo with it. It was like a gold one, and I, like, pre-ordered it, and I was so excited. And it was not for me. But I definitely like Mario Party as a whole.
I just looked up 8. This is definitely the one that I meant to say.
Yeah.
Because this is the good one, yeah.
I mean, I'll have to look at it more later to see if I'm misremembering. But again, just because you liked it or I didn't like it doesn't mean anything. But I just thought it was funny because I thought, like, I mean, granted, like, the originals on N64 don't hold up super well, especially because they're so limited in terms of, like, what minigame. And they didn't have a lot of minigames, and they didn't have a lot of board interaction, whereas, you know, now it's kind of changed. But I really like those as a whole. I think they're wicked fun games to play with friends. And weirdly, my friend's dog is afraid of Mario Party for some reason. Whenever we all play, he just, like, he gets all freaked out. I don't know if it's, like, the noises or the characters or what, but he'll sit there and watch anything or interact with anything, and he's fine. But when Mario Party comes on, he gets all freaked out. I don't know. It's very weird. But anyway, Endless Ocean sounds neat. Your
Wii symbol's gone.
Never heard of it. Why? Wii?
Oh, no.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think the number 2 was called, like, Blue World or something.
Yeah, it was. I just looked it up. I was like, how is there an Endless Ocean? And then there's a sequel. The ocean would...
I didn't know about it, and now I have, like you said, now that we're adults that have money, it's like, oh, well, I can buy that.
some of us.
I need to get around to it. I think it's good.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, hey, you could stream it. You could use Steam. Steam has the ROMs, the emulators that you can download. Like, I've used it for stuff before.
Although true. I think I would still need a PC though, because
that's true. Yeah, but I mean,
will literally die.
We can all hope that at some point you'll get a PC. That's
Hopefully.
That's like going to a PlayStation and never buying an Xbox or something. Yeah, I'll get you a PC for Christmas. You could leave it on the shelf. You can leave it on the shelf and not use it for 4 months. Like Persona. No, I'm just messing with you. All right, so next up is
your Wii.
Splatoon. I adore this game. I think Splatoon was so much fun. And that one came out on the Wii U. I don't remember if it was even... I don't think it was on the Wii at all. I think it was Wii U exclusive when it first came out, and then they ported it to Switch. Splatoon, I think it was just extremely fun for a shortish period of time. And the one thing I will say is, I know the new one came out and people like it a lot. I have considered it, but I just don't know whether or not I would like invest my time into it enough to warrant buying it. Because as it is, I'm already behind on games, and I do spend a lot of time, like free time when I have it, playing like Dead by Daylight, Fortnite, whatever. So like, you're talking about adding another game like that into the rotation, and then I'm just farther away from that. But the fun I had playing Splatoon, especially, you know, when it first came out, it was just such a cool, like, unique take on, you know, I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's you know, it's an FPS, but the way Nintendo did it, and then the memories that I have playing it, and just how much I enjoyed it. When you're selecting from the rather limited pool of games that the Wii U and the Wii had in terms of like really noteworthy exclusives that aren't Super Mario Galaxy, which I like a lot, but it just doesn't hit the same for me. I just think Splatoon is a great game.
First use of the IP. Like, that was the first Splatoon thing ever.
Yeah, and that was also, I think, like, one of the first times Nintendo had... I mean, Nintendo doesn't really release a lot of new IPs, and why would they, I guess? Like, they make enough money off of what they have. I'm not like...
Now we're up to number 3.
Yeah, I know the third one just came out recently, I believe. I don't know if it's actually out yet.
Like a week or so ago. Yeah, it's out, though.
But huge fan, love Splatoon. If anyone's played the new one or has any thoughts on it, definitely interested to hear what you think, because... You know, maybe it's one it's worth grabbing at some point for me. Right now, it's like, I have terrible organization management with games where I'll start one game before I finish another, and then I'm 7,000 games in and I don't have anything finished. I'm cutting it close with Ragnarok, because I gotta finish God of War, and I got, you know, a work trip coming up soon where I'm gonna be away. It's just, there's a lot. I gotta hanker down and churn out what probably is like 5 hours of gameplay left, maybe. But it's just, I keep letting myself get distracted by other things. Okay, next up is the Switch, which, of course, is going to be Nintendo's primary console till at least 2035. And I wish they would make a new one at some point, but yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit?
It's like a random tangent, though, is that I feel like the screen that's in the PSVR 2 is, like, better and more capable than the Switch. Like that unit.
I don't know too much about the PSVR, so I can't comment on that one too much, but it wouldn't shock me if Sony's quality of screen...
Well, their screen's an OLED, so they already are competing with Nintendo on that one. I don't know how that's going to be for my eyes, being that close to one, but...
I'm pretty sure my iPhone SE has better processing power than the Switch, but that's, you know, again, another conversation for another time. So tell us what you got.
Switch, I picked Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I feel like the Switch has so many good games that have come out, like, specifically for that, like Mario Odyssey, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Like, there's definitely a bunch of, like, easy exclusives for me to be like, yes, this one, this one, this one. I picked Fire Emblem 3 Houses because I think this is somewhere in, like, my top favorite games of all time in general. Like, maybe somewhere in the top 10. I'd have to, like, really think about it, but I never have. I don't play Fire Emblem games. This is my first one. And I also don't like turn-based games at all. Like, Pokemon's like the rare exception, and even then I get tired of it, which is why I liked Arceus so much. I don't know why I picked up 3 Houses. I was working at GameStop at the time, and there was a bunch of marketing on it, and the idea seemed really cool. And of course they have like the university aspect, and I don't know why that I like enjoy that so much when I really didn't like being in school for real. But it's like, oh, I get to be a student, hell yeah. But yeah, Fire Emblem 3 Houses was like fucking complete surprise for me how much I liked it. They had a really cool like split between their gameplay where you were like a student or you ended up being like the professor. You have all the characters to talk to, so like the RPG part of it I really, really liked, and like managing the abilities and like what I did with my free time. And then out on the missions, which is like the turn-based grid action, which is like what I never play, was still really fun. I don't know what it was about it, but I was really into it, and maybe I would like more games like that, and I just think I don't like them, and I could actually like them. But the worst part about this is, even though I fucking love this game, and I tell people it's one of my favorite games, is I haven't finished it. There's a notable cut in this middle of the game where a giant time skip happens, and I'm there, and I haven't gone past that. So if anyone's played this game, they're going to hear you haven't played past the time skip and be like, what is wrong with you? And yeah, so I really like the game for what I've played of it so far, and I think that if I finished it, it would probably cement itself as like one of my favorite games of all time. But I feel like I've been so far removed from it that I might have to go back and restart, which I don't want to do. So I might just do like a story recap from where I am.
Just to
get. But yeah, I highly recommend it if you have like any interest in RPGs at all and like cool anime characters and like building relationships and action-based like grid stuff at all. It's very good.
Okay. Yeah, and it was never really my thing. I have a lot of friends who really enjoyed it. I know that the whole relationship building and all the different stuff you can do is definitely something that people had a lot of good things to say about it. So I'm sure people are pumped for the new one, and I'm sure it'll be good, because I don't think there's been a lot of Fire Emblems that have been outright bad as far as I'm aware, but I mean, I could be wrong.
I feel like they know what they're doing, and they do it well, and their fan base likes it, so it's like they never really have to worry about being like too far from it. But
which is true.
They did a really cool thing with their house system. They had different characters depending on like which house you're in, like very Harry Potter, like, oh, you have these type of people, you have those people, so like picking the house really mattered because those are the characters that you could interact with the most.
Makes sense.
So if you wanted certain friendships, then you could even like poach kids. You could be like, I want the one from the other team, and like steal them. But you know, it was a good time.
What's your Harry Potter house? Gryffindor?
Slytherin.
Yeah, that makes sense. You strike me as a Gryffindor, but I took the test once just for fun because I had a friend who's a big Harry Potter fan, and it was a Ravenclaw, I think. I don't know. It seemed edgy and cool, but you have a very Gryffindor vibe. All right, so
I think that was my second house. I took a quiz that like did it by like actual personality traits, and like Gryffindor was like the second closest. So
only 4, right? Yep. I do want one of those sorting hats, though. That would be kind of cool. All right, so for me, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, this one was a no-brainer. The Switch has a lot of great titles, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just I don't think it's that hot of a take to say it's one of the best games of all time. We talked about it in our best games of all time. No, I don't think so. Are we?
Oh no, I didn't think so.
Oh, no. Okay, I'll restart just in case, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is my Switch pick for my favorite game. I think it's an incredibly fun game. It's borderline perfection in the kart racing genre. It's a great game, standalone. You know, they've still supported it up to now. A lot of people have wondered whether or not there is going to be a new one at some point, which, I mean, maybe there will be, but it's just hard to build on what they've achieved there without, I mean, it would really just be like a reskin type thing, and makes me wonder if a game like this would almost be better served as like being a free-to-play game that like gets updated and you can buy different carts and skins and characters and stuff, you know? We haven't really seen Nintendo branch out too much into that field, I guess. Pokemon Unite being an exception, where it's like you know that game is, I mean, not that it's Nintendo, you know, on the surface it is made by a different company, but it's a Nintendo game. It's advertised and supported by Nintendo, and that game is free with all the optional purchase stuff. So that would be kind of interesting for Mario Kart to become like a free-to-play type game, the next one, but you know, you have to buy
I think they tried that with the mobile version and it did not go well.
I feel like the biggest issue with the mobile version alone is the fact that the game is meant to be played with a controller, and with the phone, it's like, how are you effectively drifting, and then are you using motion control? Like, I don't know, that to me just strikes me as like, I don't know, I get that the mobile gaming market is massive and that there's a need to capitalize on it, but at the same time, some games just aren't meant to be played on mobile, you know? Some games just don't need that. Honestly, my plea is that Nintendo someday, which they probably never will, but reaches some kind of partnership with Steam where certain Nintendo titles can go on Steam. Because imagine being able to, like, on PC, being able to, like, get Mario Kart 8 and other games like that and play online with other people on Steam or cross-play. Like, Nintendo's very guarded with their IPs, and obviously for good reason. They don't really have to branch out because they're Nintendo. They basically print money just by existing. But it would be awesome to see them do sort of like what Sony's done and put some of their bigger titles on Steam to get even more people access to that type of thing. That is my... imagine hopping on. Cool. No, there's no way, right? But like, imagine hopping on Steam and getting into a game of Mario Party with people, or queuing up for Mario Party, just playing random games with friends. If you're not not everybody owns a Switch or whatever, like, you open up a lot more avenues, I think, with that. But yeah, Mario Kart 8, it's just a great game. It still holds up super well. I mean, I can't play it for like hours at a time, but it's a really, really fun game, and I enjoy it immensely. So yeah, that's my pick for this.
Nice. That's a good one. That's a solid one.
It's, you know, it's
I
not.
like what they're doing now with the course pack. Like, I think they should release a full complete game and then add optional track content. And I was surprised how many tracks they're adding. It's like a good amount, and it's a pretty good value if you have the Nintendo Switch Online pack, so you don't have to buy each one.
Yeah, and it just shows that obviously they know how good the game is and how significant it is the fact that you still can't get this game on sale. This is still a $60 game. I mean, you might be able to get an occasional, and that's Nintendo. They don't put a lot of their stuff on sale, but like you can't.
Without the Switch making a new Pro console, everyone's like, "Where's Mario Party 9?" It's like, you don't need that. Like, there's nothing wrong with Mario Kart 8. It's not going to be much different. Anything they want to do, they should just add on to this like they are. Like, that's just the smartest thing they can do. Their game's, like, perfect. They don't need to change it.
It really is.
Add more characters, add more carts, add more tracks, but, like, you don't need to build a whole... Like, it's not going to be that different to warrant another $60 purchase.
No way. Not unless they were to release
unless they, like, remaster Double Dash.
I would be the first one to buy that. Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, as soon as they're like, I feel like I have played it, and like you said, the co-op or like the two-team thing was like very cool.
It's just a very different. And that game, Double Dash puts a lot of emphasis on actual mechanics of your cart. Like, if you have two heavy guys in the cart, you're gonna go slower, but you might have more power. Like, that's cool. And mixing and matching. Not that the new Mario Kart doesn't have that with like the different gliders and stuff. And again, it's clearly on the list, so it's definitely one that is great. But we're going to move on to a different system here. We're going to move on out of Nintendo, and we have some Nintendo stuff at the end, handhelds, but that's pretty much going to pull us out of Nintendo for now as we move on. So we're moving on to PlayStation 1, and Nicole, you are up first. Tell us about your...
Oh, yeah, I'm repping PlayStation. I actually really like this shirt. It's like the owner's manual for PlayStation 1.
I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's
right up there with the Harry Potter one.
Yeah, I didn't post this one anywhere, though. Yeah, my PS1 pick, which this is a console I do still own and have my games for, is Spyro the Dragon, the original game. It's perfect, alright? I grew up playing Spyro, so I'm, like, partial towards him compared to, like... I also played Crash, but, like, Banjo, Crash, all of those, like, platformers. Spyro was the first for me, so Spyro holds that place in my heart. The game's great. You're just like a little purple dragon running around doing platforming shit and like freeing dragons from being crystallized. That's pretty much the whole game. You collect some gems. I not recently, maybe within the past like 5-7 years, I went back on my PS1 to 100% Spyro because I just wanted to. Because I knew I can now. If there's anywhere I got stuck as a kid, like I obviously could figure it out now. And then like in the middle of me playing that, they fucking announced the Spyro remasters, and I was like, oh, okay, so I guess stop playing this. Obviously bought the Spyro Reignited trilogy. I haven't played the other two games, I just played the first one again, and they did a very good job on it. So I forget, I want to say it's Toys for Bob, but that doesn't sound right. I think that's Crash Bandicoot people. Whoever was in charge of their remasters just did like a fantastic job. It was really faithful. It still kind of controlled how I remembered it without being like broken. They obviously made it work for newer consoles. And yeah, I did go ahead and 100% and platinum the first game. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Hey, look at you. I know you're big on the platinum thing. I don't have the patience for it, but you've done a lot.
Once I was just kind of like collect all the gems. Like just, that one's not too bad. There is some time trials that made me want to blow my brains out, but I did it. I managed.
Unfortunately, as much as I enjoy them, platformers tend to be the games I struggle with most because I have zero patience, and there's so much that's involved patience-wise, and I'm just like, my brain... This is why I gravitate more towards different kinds of games. I did play Spyro. I think I bought Spyro from you, actually, because you had an extra copy of it a couple of years back, and it was fun. I played it, and I liked that. The Crash Insane trilogy is really good, too, but I do think Spyro is close, actually, but I do think... I don't know. They're
fun concepts. I feel like they're very cool mascots, and I'd be very happy with like another mainline Spyro game, even though I could just play the other two remasters.
Yeah, but sometimes the new one's not bad either. Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I think the remaster one's relatively...
Missouri just unlocked a fucking memory in my mind. Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. I feel like I do remember that game. Maybe it wasn't that exact one, but it was an old Scooby-Doo game, either on like the PS2 or PS1, and it was great.
I don't know if I have any idea what that is, to be honest.
I remember being like outside and like outside of like a mansion or something, like looking for clues, and that's the farthest my memory goes for that one.
Interesting. Well, I'll have to look at it. I don't know what that one
you
is.
have my other favorites.
So,
and then my shout out that I wanted to have you include quick was was the Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour for PS1, which was literally Crash Team Racing if Disney made it, or Mario Kart if it was Disney. So you literally drove around the park and different attractions like the Haunted Mansion as Disney characters. And I don't know why they never did anything with it. They did announce on the Nintendo Direct the other day some weird Disney kart racing thing, but like that game, if you played it on PS1, was like gold to a Disney kid.
Yeah, I couldn't find a good picture, but that's why I didn't include it. I was trying to find things that fit size-wise. That's the only reason I didn't have that one up here. But yeah, I've actually heard of that. That might have been one that was on the PS1 Classic when that came out a couple of years ago.
It wasn't. I talk about it every chance I get, so you probably
maybe
saw
I just
me
heard you mention it.
There.
We did have that was super easy to mod too. There was like a website you could just literally download anything onto a flash drive and plug it into the PS1 Classic and play like any of the games, which was super cool. Underrated little piece of technology. We still have one. In the living room. I haven't played it in forever, but it's definitely a cool, especially with PS1 prices, having access to some of that stuff is nice. So I have a double here because I couldn't pick one, which is a cop-out, but it's our show, so fuck off. I have Twisted Metal 2 and Crash Team Racing. Now, Twisted Metal 2 is easily one of my favorite games of all time. I grew up with the Twisted Metal series. I played countless hours of Twisted Metal 2. As a matter of fact, I might have played so much of one that we had to buy another copy of the disc. I used to play with my cousins, with my friends, with my brother. Like, we'd play it all the time. It's extremely fun. But, God, it does not hold up well. I recently played it, I mean, I say like maybe like a couple of years ago on the PS1 Classic, and it does not hold up well at all. It just looks like a blocky mess, and I kind of wish I had never picked it up again, only because like I remember it so fondly, and I still have a ton of fond memories of it, but like, good lord, the years have not been kind to it. But it was always my favorite. It had the great soundtrack. It was a little goofier, you know, in terms of like Twisted Metal Black is like dark, and that scared the shit out of me as a young bird. Twisted Metal Black was like the little cinematics and videos and stuff. I was unsettled by a lot of that. But this one was just more kind of like, it had the story modes, you know. I don't know what as a young person in quotes has to mean, but I'm saying when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13,
you said when 11? I was as a young person.
Yeah, you know, like when I was young, and it was just a spooky game, and it would just get into my head a little bit, because those cutscenes with Dollface when she nails the mask onto her head and all the other stuff in Twisted Metal Black. But that's a PS2 thing. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But yeah, Twisted Metal 2 is a great game. Core memory for me, but CTR is just a classic too. And Nitro Kart is amazing, the one they made for PS4. I really enjoyed that. I don't know if I've ever told this story on the podcast. I might have mentioned it once briefly. I actually found a copy of Crash Team Racing sealed at a flea market a few years ago. And the guy sold it to me for $15. And it was a black label sealed copy of CTR. And he was selling it for like 40, and I was like, well, I only have 15. And he was like, okay, I take 15, and that was it. And it was like the nicest like thing that I owned, but I didn't really appreciate it at the time. And I think I got it 15. It was like 90 at the time. I bet you it's more now because it was black label. But I think I traded it in for like a few packs of Pokemon cards or something from the store, which I regret so much, because for one, like, that would have been such a cool thing to own, and it's so hard to find sealed OG PS1 stuff. Like, I'm not like a sealed collector, because like you just have to be so financially well off for that, or just have stuff from years and years ago. I was just looking online to see what the actual current going rate is of that game sealed, and the black label version of that game, factory sealed, is like $400. And honestly, it's sad because I had it in like 2017 or something. I'm not even going that far back, and it's very pricey for the black label version of that game. I regret that immensely, but CTR is a great game, and obviously I wish I still had it. But I may mention in the comments, Resident Evil Director's Cut. I don't love the tank controls on the Resident Evil games on PS1. But great game. And she said, honestly, as a young person, young guy. I don't know how you pronounce that. Young guy slays harder. I don't know. She tried to call me out on being old today on Twitter, and it said 29's old, and I'm like, this dude this BTS guy that everyone's obsessed about that she retweets all the time is literally 29. Like I don't know. I'm basically like the white Yoongi or Youngie or whatever his name is. So. Listen, next up, we're gonna move on before you can dispute that point to PS2, and let me get mine off the screen and move on to yours. Tell us what you got.
I forget, so I'm waiting for it to pop up.
Oh, okay. You can't see my screenshot. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, there it goes. All right. Yeah, I picked Simpsons Hit and Run, which if you are a man or a woman or a person of taste, you know that this should be everyone's choice. It's fantastic. This is very comparable. My other choice as my honorable mention was Grand Theft Auto 3. So as my brother, my younger brother's 3 years younger than me, so me and him are playing these games. As you know, we probably shouldn't. We would tell our parents, we just want to drive the cars in GTA 3 and like end up like going to the strip club, picking up the hooker, and then killing her for her money. We're not going to talk about that. But Simpsons Hit and Run was pretty much... That. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll get back to that in a second. You know, no, I guess I'll talk about it now. Parents would come into GameStop when I'm working and try to buy GTA for their kids. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, this game's M-rated. I have to let you know about its graphic content. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. It's like, is it fine? And then I would tell them that story. I was just like, you can pick up a hooker, pay her for her services, watch the services, and then kill her and take your money back. And they were like... I'm like, just telling you what's in the game. That's what you can do in that game. But anyway.
Well, I just want to say, at least
kids
they
were
paid
not happy
her.
with me, pretty much, like, not, like, game blocking them from getting GTA from their parents. Because they're just being little shitheads and lying. But
I mean, at least they paid her for her services. I feel like that's important and teaches kids a lesson that you can't cheap out on expenses. I mean, yeah, I don't necessarily, I don't support the killing and robbing of the aforementioned hooker, but I mean, if there's no return policy established, sometimes you just gotta take a stab at it. So I don't know. Anyway,
literal stab.
Well, that too.
Yeah, so Simpsons Hit and Run was very similar to GTA in those respects as far as like the chaos. It's a little less like violent and more inappropriate on like the language and like I guess subject matter, but not in like the gory murder way, just being like an inappropriate thing for kids to watch. But it was fantastic. As you played through the game, you would switch perspectives and be different characters. So like the beginning of the game, you were Homer. And I don't think we ever got to finish it. I feel like there was a part we kept getting stuck on as kids, and I kind of want to like go back and play it again. And I've waited for somebody to take it and remaster it or port it or do something. And I'm not alone. I see everyone online talking about the game. It'd be a great thing to remaster. It's just a lot of fun. There's missions, like you have stuff to do. You can visit like the iconic Simpsons locations if that was something you watched. Even if you wasn't, it was just like a fun game to play and fuck around in.
Classic game. That's the one where Homer has the line where it's like, "I'll pay you in back rubs," right? Where he just like calls her. Yeah, I remember that game. That's a great game.
He's like, "I am smart." SMRT.
Oh yeah. Donut. Yeah, I can't do the Homer impression all that well. May said Kingdom Hearts, Resident Evil 4, and DBZ Budokai Tenkaichi 2 as honorable mentions. Tenkaichi 2 is amazing. Probably the best Dragon Ball fighter ever made. Resident Evil 4, I mean, unfortunately I couldn't fit it on this list, but it's just because there was no slot for it, like, in terms of, like, it being exclusive to something, but it's in my top 10. And Kingdom Hearts is fun. I played the first Kingdom Hearts. I played about half of the second one earlier this year, and I just kind of got bored after the story is very convoluted. So, like, I enjoyed the Disney stuff, and then I'm like, I don't, like, all this stuff with Organization 13, it just kind of lost me. But, yeah, no, those are
as I said earlier, too, PS2 is best-selling console of all time, you know?
That's true,
There was a lot. That was the other console my brother and I played a lot on, so there's obviously a bunch of games that were special, including Twisted Metal, which I don't know which one it was. I don't think it had a number. I feel like it was just Twisted Metal, but it had to have something.
Well, there's Twisted Metal Black was the only one on PS2.
Really?
Yes, and PS1
was that the one with the Eiffel Tower where you could blow it up and it would fall over and become a bridge?
That was 2.
Oh, so that was on PS2 then, because that's where we played it.
Well, it was playable on PS2 because it was backwards compatible, but it wasn't.
Yeah, that's the one we played, and that was obviously fantastic.
It's the soundtrack in that game.
What you got going on here, Digimon?
All right, so this is Digimon Rumble Arena 2 on PlayStation 2, which is probably a little bit of an unknown gem of a game. It's like a $100 game at least, and it's extremely fun because it's essentially a Smash type game where you play against, you know, up to 4 people, and you can play as a Digimon, but you collect energy and you can Digivolve throughout the game, and it's insanely fun game. They made 3 others, or no, I'm sorry, they made 2 others. One was the first one, which was kind of regarded as meh, and then they made another one on, I think they came out after this that was not great, but this game as a whole is just a very clean, extremely fun Smash-like clone that I put so many hours into with friends. And it's funny because I played this when I was like 12 or 13, no, probably 12. And then years passed, and then when I was like 20, a couple of friends and I were like, man, I remember playing this game, like, it was really fun, let's pick it up again. And it was like a $70 game at that point. Like, it had skyrocketed because of scarcity, and it's on GameCube as well, but any copy of it's extremely hard to find. And we went to GameStop one day and bought it. They had it at GameStop. This was when they were still selling PS2 games, but only like a small shelf of them. And they had it for like $30, and I was like, fuck, I'll buy this for $30, like, whatever. I don't remember what we ended up doing with it, because this was probably like, 22, probably about like 9 years ago, but it's gone up significantly ever since. I have really fond memories of it. We used to play with a multi-tap, and it's a really underrated gem of a game on PS2. There probably are other games on PS2 that are really good. Nothing really stands out to me from PS2 as, like, exceptionally, like, for me personally, as, like, exceptionally fun. I liked Hit and Run. I liked GTA, and I think Vice City was on PS2 as well.
Yeah, I think that's one people prefer. We just had 3, so that's like what I grew up playing.
I put a ton of hours in 3 because I remember the car dealership.
Star Wars Battlefront 2, shout out to that.
Never played Battlefront 2, so I can't really comment on that. I played the new Battlefront 2, the one that came out.
No, the PS2 version was so much better.
Never played it.
Terribly, like not like generational improvements, but like it was just a better game.
I never played Metal Gear Solid stuff, so I know that's a hugely popular franchise.
I'm waiting for them to remaster those so I can.
At some point, I'm sure they will. There's good games on PS2. There's just nothing that like.
I had the Tasmanian Tiger. What else I got over there?
What is it? Not Jak and Daxter.
Sonic Heroes.
Sonic Heroes is okay, but that wasn't even a PS2 exclusive. That was on a few things.
Oh, it probably wasn't, yeah.
I said y'all play Shrek 2 on PS2. No, I can't say
Teen Titans, that was a great game for PS2.
Good anime, good show. I looked up a list of top PS2 games before I made this choice because I honestly couldn't tell you. I just played GameCube all the time. I didn't really like
Star Wars.
I'm just looking at top PS2 games, and I'm going to name a couple off. I mean, Resident Evil 4, yes, but I mean, I honestly consider that a GameCube game above all else because it came out on GameCube first and then came out later on those. So my brain doesn't immediately make that connection. But you have San Andreas, which is obviously a classic, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, which again I did not play, so I can't comment on it. You had some of the Gran Turismo games. I'm just scrolling through, you know. Nothing here strikes me as like, oh, this is a PS2 gem. Kingdom Hearts is, you know, obviously Ratchet and Clank, but I didn't play those games. I don't really know too much about them. So I know people love PS2. It's just like I like it. Devil May Cry. I don't know. It's fine. It's just, I think the GameCube was just an objectively better console. Maybe Silent Hill 2, you know, is another one that's supposed to be really good. And Metal Gear Solid 3, which I know Isaac was a huge fan of. He talked about that when we did the best games video. But it just, PS2 never did it for me personally. I respect it. It's a good system. It's just, I don't know. I've always been more on the side of, I played a lot of Xbox and I played a lot of GameCube. Not as much PS2. But this was a good one. Okay. Next to PS3, which comes after PS2, and is a fantastic system. So tell us what you've selected.
Everyone knows what I selected. Skyrim, baby!
Unbelievable.
The best game of all time. I felt bad putting it on the PS3, but that is where it belongs. That's where it came out.
And Xbox 360.
Yeah, this is probably like one of the only games that wasn't like a console exclusive. unless I know GTA wasn't either. But like, I feel like a lot of the other ones, because of the nature of Nintendo, it's always like their proprietary stuff. But yeah, Skyrim's my favorite game of all time. I played on PS3 first, and I've played on every console available since, including the Switch, including a European version my dad accidentally bought me, which still worked on my PS5. So I've played so many versions of Skyrim, it's nuts. Yeah, if you haven't heard my rant before, I think Skyrim's the best game of all time. I really liked what Bethesda did with it. It's a game that I can replay over and over again and do the same missions over and over again, and I'm still going to be happy playing it. It's a very addicting gameplay loop with how satisfying their bow system is. If you've heard anything from Skyrim, Sneaky Archer's like a fucking broken build in Skyrim, so like you can up your sneak attack to be like ×7, and then with that coupled with your bow, you're just like one-shotting enemies, and it's a great time. I implore everyone to play it because it's on the most recent generation, so you can get a really nice, up-to-date, clean version of it.
Yeah, I believe it's also on the toaster, the smart toaster, but I'm not sure if that's actually out yet.
I think it really was on a Tesla in like a fridge. So
I think it hasn't been ported enough. I think what we really should do is put it on mobile. I think I maybe expressed it for mobile Skyrim. That would be awesome. Put it on the BlackBerry so that we can celebrate things from the past that people should move on from, and kind of see what happens. Zayla said, I remember going to the midnight release with my brother 10 years ago for Skyrim.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Skyrim was like my first, like, hey, here's these like open world RPG adventure games. Play this. And I was like, what is it? What are you? And then my entire life changed.
I miss midnight releases. I think it's an I get it, like, haha, yeah, you get it virtually online, but, like, also in the same vein that, like, I enjoy collecting, like, having physical media. Like, I don't mean to sound like a boomer, but, like, people who are, like, there was just a fun thing of, like, the anticipation of, like, a game coming out, going to meet up with everybody at the local, you know, GameStop or whatever, or wherever you went, and getting that. There was a fun thing, like, just like manuals in video games. Like, some of that stuff was just cool, and I feel like it's a little bit of a lost art. I liked the idea of midnight releases, but, you know, so they said there's nothing like opening a brand new game. No, I mean, that's true, and it's fun, and it's just, you don't get the same thing just downloading it, but I get it is convenient, and I'm all for increased accessibility. I don't support a move away fully from physical media, and I really hope that they don't do that. And honestly, May said Fat Princess was fun. Kids used to call me that in high school, but I don't really know what you're referencing. So with that said, I'm gonna move on to my pick for PS3, which really doesn't require that much. It's The Last of Us. Just one of the best games ever made. It's an incredible emotional journey, and I didn't even play it on PS3 when I played it for the first time, which is funny. I actually played it on PS4, but it's a PS3 game, so that's where it deserves to go. It was kind of unlike anything else at the time when it came out. The story is incredible. The gameplay is really good. It just overall, it's a fantastic game, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. It was in the top 8 of our best games of all time bracket. Like, Last of Us 1 and 2. 2's great, and I know, obviously, Last of Us Part 1 just recently came out, and I'm not super in favor of them charging $70 for it, but because I don't think it's, you know, that different of a game experience. But, again, another topic for a different show. But, yeah, Last of Us, just a fantastic game, and I think probably the best PS3, definitely the best PS3 exclusive title, without a doubt. I think that goes without saying. But the game will kind of hold up, I think. It's a journey. It's a story, it's a journey, and it's extremely fun, so.
For sure.
Moving on to the next one. It is PS4, naturally, and you have selected...
Sorry, I'm waiting.
Oh, that's right, you're watching on a delay. I'm like, what is this?
Mine is Horizon Zero Dawn. So this is also another game that I consider to be, like, in my overall best games of all time. This one was surprising because it's a brand new IP from Sony at the time, and already I was just like, oh, like, woman protagonist, cool, like, bow and arrow, cool, because as with Skyrim, like, that's a mechanic I really enjoy in games if it's done well. Horizon was very surprising. So Horizon's a very good open world. They have their mechanics nailed down. It's a really cool concept. I'm not going to spoil it, just somehow scenario you haven't played this game yet. But you're in a tribal, like, primitive civilization, but yet there's, like, very advanced machines. So all the animals are machines. There's still, like, birds and, like, small game and stuff, but yeah, just, like, giant fucking, like, crocodiles, like, horses, but they're all machines. And yeah, the premise of the game is kind of just like figuring out who you are and figuring out what's going on with the world, because there's a fucking something's wrong here. You got really advanced and really primitive. And where the story goes is just like one of my favorite stories that I've experienced in a game. It gets kind of like science-y with like how things got to be there, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it's just like one of my favorite stories, and the sequel expanded and continued that. But Horizon Zero Dawn's still just like a very good start to like a new IP, and I definitely recommend everyone plays it. If it's not your type of game, you don't like doing the giant open world, you don't like going to collect all the things you don't need to, put it on story mode, run through the story missions. It's absolutely worth your time.
Okay, Horizon. Ironically, what our show, well, one half of what our show name is based on. So this one didn't come as a shock to me. Much like I would imagine that mine is not going to come like much of a shock. But, again, I technically broke the rules, but the rules were loosely established. I did have a cross selection here because I can't bring myself to pick between these two.
Yeah, there's so many.
Uncharted 4 and Persona 5 Royal. Like, Uncharted 4 is just... I adore the Uncharted series. I've so much so that I thought about, like, going back and playing through it again. It's just that's a lot of time, and I want to experience new games. But I think Uncharted 4 is the best game in the series. It's Lost Legacy definitely is great. It's just that, you know, it's not a full-fledged game in the same sense, right? Like, I love it. I think it's amazing. I recommend everybody play it. But when you compare the two, it's just not as full-fledged. And Royal is... I think probably the best video game I've personally ever played, ever. So it's hard to pick between the two, and obviously, like, Persona, you play Persona, like, as long as it's a game you like and you're into, it changes your personality almost. Like, it doesn't change your personality, but you become a fan of Persona. Like, everything, like, you know, I have merch, I have t-shirts, whatever. Like, Persona's just such a fun, incredibly enjoyable game, and I couldn't pick between the two because realistically speaking, these are both at the absolute top of the list for PS4. And Horizon's up there too, I'm sure. It's just I've seen gameplay, I haven't played it, so I can't, you know, comment on that. It's definitely one I want to play. You know, that and God of War have been on my watch list for a long time, and it's just, you know, God of War got the pick first because there's a new one coming out. And the thing about Horizon that throws me off personally in terms of my apprehension to start playing it is the fact that it's like this massive open world game, and I just don't...
don't let that stop you. Literally put it on the story easy mode, and you can literally just run through the story missions. You don't have to do the rest.
So it doesn't... Is it like Red Dead Redemption 2, where it's like you can't just like play through a linear story? You kind of have to like God of War.
No, I just said you can do that.
No, I know. Well, you're saying put it on easy, but I just
do the story modes.
Because I feel like
just do the missions.
Okay. Because that's been my biggest turnoff with the game is like I don't want to sit there and have to put 80 hours into. And I'm being dramatic, but I don't want to put that much time into it and have to just do all this open world stuff. But
the easy
story
difficulty makes it so you don't need to do all that extra stuff, and what you have available to you from progressing through the story mission should be enough.
Okay. All right.
And who knows, you might be like, wow, this is really cool, and you want to keep doing more. So that's
maybe. It's definitely... I noticed that with God of War, too, like, as I'm playing through it, like, there's certain different things you can do, little, like, collecting things on the side, and I'm like, oh, this is all really cool. It's just, like, I don't have the time, you know? But I definitely want to play it. Oh, Roy, thanks for joining us. Or if you're just chiming in for the first time, said just play it. It's definitely one thing that I want to do. But it's definitely... If it was this year, I'd be surprised. I think with the gaming time that I have, with the show and everything else, it's finding time to sit down and devote that much time into it. But maybe if I play it, I'll stream it or something on the channel as a bonus content, and people can hang out. And I gotta imagine it's one of those games that you're not going to be as invested in story-wise as you are just like the playthrough experience. So, but we will see. All right, PS5.
And I don't have a graphic for this one. So I don't need to wait for it because I was very indecisive and decided very last minute what I was going to say for this one. It took me like all day. I think because every single PlayStation exclusive that actually like came out since like for the PS5, I wasn't including like remasters or ports or anything. Everything's been like pretty comparable in quality. I think everything's been like pretty fucking good if you've played them all. So like they have Horizon Forbidden West, Astro's Playroom comes with the PS5, and if you have one and haven't played that, what are you doing? It's a very good platformer. It takes you through PlayStation's game history, which is really cool, and it really showcases the DualSense controller in a way that you wouldn't even realize is possible because not all developers use it. But my pick for this one was going to be Spider-Man Miles Morales. I think that it could have been someone's pick for the PS4 because like what they did with that game was like they took Spider-Man and they fucking made a game that would be the best way to play Spider-Man. They put him in New York City, which is where he belongs anyway, but just like the way they designed that game is like, it's not like some bullshit like Marvel's Avengers where you're just like spamming a button and you just have like punches and stuff. Like you're literally, the game was designed for you to play Spider-Man, swing through the city. Really cool story, very emotional story. I did like end up sobbing at one point. So if you're like, you cry during a Spider-Man game, go play it. You'll see why. But no, yeah, they did it really well. Insomniac's a fucking beast. So when they made Miles Morales, they pretty much just redid that, gave Miles his own story, and Miles has his own moveset. If you know him from the comics, he has like some invisible thing, and maybe he's electric. I forget now. But his story is also really cool, and yeah, they know what they're doing. So I definitely would give it to Miles.
Okay, yeah, that's I started playing the OG Spider-Man. I didn't get around to Miles. It looked cool. Like I said, for PS5, it's just there's just not a lot of exclusive. There's just not a lot of stuff yet on it, which is interesting. And
yeah,
again,
I did really want to say Cyberpunk, but I didn't want to be yelled at
I mean,
because Cyberpunk also deserves a bunch of recognition, and I played it on PS5 where it actually worked, so
I wouldn't have yelled at you because I don't know. I only know what people say about the game, and while it did get a bad rap at first, it does seem like they've fixed a lot of that. And I'm all of the mindset that, like, you know, you can criticize the way it was handled or whatever, and that's probably a fair criticism. But at the end of the day, like, if they've made it better, people that are just not going to play it out of spite, like, that's just not who are you really? You're not doing any favors for anyone, you know. And so it's just kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me, but that's here nor there. But
yeah,
I
think by the time this gen's done. So I was gonna say by the time this gen's done, I think it's easy for us to know our favorites from each because we've had the whole thing.
Yeah,
like we know what our favorites are. Well, by the end of it, God knows what we're gonna say. Maybe God of War Ragnarok, maybe Wolverine. Who knows?
Maybe if Wolverine ever comes out.
It's coming out.
Didn't it get delayed? Or am I thinking of a different game? I thought it got
delayed.
No,
this was a game that was like, hey, we're making it, but like they were like pretty early in production still.
Fair enough. Yeah, I honestly, like, I haven't played a lot of PS5 exclusive titles, and I mean, I guess technically I could pick a non-PS5 exclusive title, but there's not even enough of those that have come out that are, like, substantially better on next gen that I've played. So really the only PS5 games that I've played Elden Ring on PS5, doesn't really count. I guess it could, but I don't think it does. Is Demon's Souls and Astro's Playroom, which is really fun, actually. PS5 has a really nifty controller. I like it a lot, and a lot of what it can do is super cool. But Demon's Souls is really the only thing I've played, and even that I only played a couple of hours of. But I mean, it's incredible. It's a Souls game. It's a beautiful remaster, sort of remake of that, and it's one I want to go back to, especially after playing Elden Ring. But I just don't like to play too many games of that nature, like back to back, because then I get burnt out on it. But yeah, it's kind of a cop-out pick. But I wanted to pick something I've played, and there aren't many options on PS5 that I've played, so. That's what I went with here, was Demon's Souls. Okay, we're rounding out here. We've got we're moving in. We skipped Xbox because Nicole doesn't have a ton of like hands-on experience with Xbox in general, and I don't really have any favorites on Xbox, so we just kind of made the joint decision to skip that entirely. But we did go Xbox 360, and I will say Nicole did not have anything for this. I believe what she actually said was PlayStation is superior, or oh no, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I muted my mic. Sorry. I know what I said was I did put something for Xbox 360, and it was PlayStation better.
Yeah, see, I couldn't allow that slander because you see, 360 is an incredible. 360 might be Xbox's best work up until the Series X. I mean, there's a lot of really good games on there. Now
this is so sad. I am so sorry. I didn't own this one, and even if I did, I got nothing.
I grew up with this. Halo 3 is my favorite by far. It's like if I were to rank the games, like here, it's going to be like Halo 3 would be number 1, and then the next one would be like 20 notches down before I even picked one. I've put more hours into this game than I've put into any other game ever, probably. It still holds up well, like literally to this day. I mean, if you play like Master Chief Collection, I know it's technically not on 360 in that same regard, but it's the same game at its core. And I've shown it off before, I literally own every single, like, physical Halo release. Like, I have all the 360 ones, like, everything here. It's really, like, what sparked a love of gaming for me. I remember playing Halo with friends. Like, my dad and his friends would come over, and me and my friends would be downstairs, and we'd, like, link up and play split screen on the, like, online on the TVs and stuff. Halo 3 is just... It arguably probably is my favorite game ever. And just to shout out a few comments quick, Travman said, gotta be Guitar Hero 3 or Assassin's Creed 2. And Zay said, Halo 3 was incredible. I still have the Legendary Edition with Chief's helmet. I would love that. I don't have all the special editions yet, unfortunately. Some of them are wicked hard to find. But
I would say Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero is really fun too. But I mean, it was also on PS2, right? Like, well, I guess yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of came out.
Played Guitar Hero on
I don't think it's too hot of a take, realistically speaking, to say that Halo 3 is the best Xbox 360 game ever.
Halo Infinite's the first Halo I played, but I know how big Halo was for people.
Infinite is a letdown for me in a lot of ways, and I don't think you'll find anybody that was more excited for that game than me. The multiplayer mode was really fun for the first month or so, and then they just didn't update it. Like, I think just a month ago they updated the game.
I found the campaign to be super boring, and it was even worse because you couldn't play it with somebody.
Yep, that's a huge issue. It's been a big selling point of Halo, and honestly, before Infinite came out, I started at Halo 1, and this was like literally beginning of this year, end of last year. I started at Halo 1 and replayed through everything up through 4, and I was like, holy shit, I'm having so much fun. Like, even playing Halo 3's campaign again from start to finish, it's just such a fun... And Master Chief is like, if you don't like Halo, you don't like Halo, like, that's fine. But, like, if you do like Halo and you're someone who grew up with Halo, the game is still just incredibly fun, and Halo 3 still stands the test of time as a... Like, it's literally still fun. It's still good. I would rather go play Halo 3 online right now than play Infinite, realistically. And I think that's great. And Gears of War 2, yeah, the finishing this fight, like, the Warthog run towards the end of Halo 3 after you fight the Grave Mind or whatever, like, it's just hype. It's still hype. If a game can still have that type of impact 15 years after coming out, it's just... Like, that should say enough about it. And honestly, I tend to agree with you. I think the 360 as a whole is not anything crazy. Like, it had some cool games. It had Xbox Arcade, which was neat. But Halo 3 makes it a console that I think just, it deserves the attention and appreciation. So, Alan Wake...
I know something really weird.
What?
So, my most recent notification on Twitter is Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania Morgana DLC via PSN. You get Morgana in the Monkey Ball.
I knew that, but it's actually really cool. That it's weird that it showed you that after we just talked about it also.
Yeah, Cheap Ass Gamer. I have my alerts on for them for deals and stuff, and that was the most recent thing they tweeted. Like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, Oblivion's another one. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, too. I think it's the best Elder Scrolls, actually.
Yeah,
Oblivion.
it's tough to play if you try now. That's
well, I mean, Skyrim's probably similar, but Oblivion may be the best Elder Scrolls, realistically.
I have heard that. I wish I played it when it wasn't, terrible nowadays.
May I mention Fusion Frenzy? I actually played that recently at my dad's house. It's on Game Pass. It's just kind of a goofy, fun game that it looks like shit, but it's still very fun. It's kind of a wacky, it's a party game, and I don't know if you ever played it growing up, but it was actually kind of fun. I don't know what was, I don't know what Zay said was terrible. What are you saying is terrible? I don't know what you're referencing.
Maybe.
I said Fusion Friendly looks terrible physically, like the graphics have not aged well, but the game itself is still fun. Oh, yeah, she's a Skyrim fanboy, so it's different. Like, she's very unwilling to acknowledge the fact that it may not be the best Elder Scrolls.
Dude, go for Skyrim 360. Get your Connect and Fruso Da with your voice. Now that sounds cool.
I used to have a Connect. You corrected terrible, but you didn't spell it wrong. Oh, I see what you're removing the question mark. I got you. Yeah, I had a Connect, but then I took an arrow to the knee, you know? That's what Skyrim was good for, was memes. Alright, so, we have a couple left, so let's dig Xbox One.
Long, but
I had a feeling it was going
to
to
really have much to say for the rest, so, I'll just...
Yeah, we'll wrap it up kind of quick. And that's kind of like our, quote-unquote season finale before we move into Halloween stuff starting with next week's show, so it's sort of fitting. And we have some really cool stuff. I don't know if you want, maybe we can...
special guests!
Yes, we have 2 special guests, well, maybe 3, actually, technically.
We're in high demand.
So,
we
yeah,
right? Charging them for appearances.
This is the thing, I mean, we're top performing in Germany, and that's just important. The Germans love us. Alright, so... Moving on, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, we just kind of put those together. Series X doesn't really have a lot of exclusives, and Xbox One still has stuff being made for it, so you can just kind of put those together. So go ahead and if you want to just briefly touch on yours.
Yeah, I'm sorry for my answer. I was looking through my Xbox today, and I was just like, oh. I was like, there is nothing that stood out to me as like, oh, this is an Xbox game. Anything that I was looking at was stuff on Game Pass that was like a third-party game that just happened to have me play. Hey, thanks for the follow, Radioactive. And Disney Dreamlight Valley is in early access or open beta right now, and it's free for Game Pass, and it's what I've been putting a bunch of my time into, so I picked it. Obviously, you could say Halo, Forza, all like the other actual good games, but I got the Xbox One at the end of its life cycle, and then I have the Xbox One S now that I pretty much just use for Game Pass stuff, but yeah, Disney Dreamlight Valley is a nice mix between Animal Crossing and Sims, but yeah, it's a lot of fun if you're a Disney person. It pretty much takes all of the bad mechanics of Animal Crossing and makes them better as far as quality of life and just making it a better experience, and then you have the added bonus of like befriending and talking to Disney people.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it. I know it's new and it's exciting for people. I mean, the Animal Crossing stuff just doesn't really do it for me, but that's just me personally. I get bored. It's really fun at first. I just get bored, and I need something to maintain my interest because small brain, ADHD.
Yeah, this one has quests, which is cool, so I think you'd have a better time paying attention to this one.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're liking it. I like that about Cult of the Lamb. Obviously, that was fun, too. I won't spend too much time on this. I've talked about this game so much on the show already, but Hades was my pick, and I know it wasn't exclusive to this. It was on PC, and it eventually came out on Switch. This game is just one of my favorite games ever, period, and I had to get it on here somewhere, whether it was sort of a squeeze in or not. I played it on Xbox Series X, and it runs beautifully. I mean, it obviously, like, it runs well on anything that isn't the Switch, probably. But, I mean, this game is just phenomenal. I honestly would recommend this game to almost anybody. And honestly, if people were like, pick one game that you want to recommend to somebody to play, I think Hades would be the pick. Not because I like it better than certain things like Persona and whatnot, but because it's easier to get into, it's less of a time sink, and it's just a game that I think overall people will really, really enjoy. And a roguelite with a story that's actually enjoyable, and the music, and I can sit there and talk about Hades forever, but it's just amazing. Do yourself a favor if you haven't played it and play the game. It's super worth, and it's not super, I mean, it's challenging, but it's not, you know, if I can beat it, you can beat it. So that's sort of my mentality on that. Yeah, and just to sort of wrap up with the last couple that we have here, we've got 2 left. We've got the Game Boy Advance, which, of course, this is kind of Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, whatever, like, kind of putting it together. It was pretty open for picks here. And for Nicole, you want to tell us about your picks?
I picked the best games ever. These are very much rooted in nostalgia for me, and, like, I looked up when they came out, and I was literally 6 and 7 years old, so keep that in mind. And when I was looking up dogs today, I found an article by somebody just absolutely shitting on it, and this was like done in 2019, which I found to be hilarious. But yeah, dogs is very basic. You play as a little person, you adopt a dog, and then you play like a dog simulation. You wake up, you train your dog, you do things with your dog, and then the game abruptly ends, and it's really sad, but I've had so much time playing that game and had a lot of fun with it. And then Disney's Brother Bear, great adaptation for that if you ever watch the movie, which is an underrated Disney movie that they kind of just abandoned. But again, kind of like the original Donkey Kong Country, it was just a side-scroller. You played as the bear and little brother, and you could like switch between the two to like get different things done to move on. But yeah, those are just games that I played a lot of time in, and they're definitely not the best games on the Game Boy Advance. They were just my favorites. Yeah,
I honestly, I thought Nintendogs was what you were talking about when you typed dogs. I didn't know dogs was a thing. So that's interesting. Yeah. And Brother Bear, I remember the movie. I can't speak to the game, but I will say Game Boy Advance did have a lot of titles like that. based on movies, and some of them weren't bad. So mine's not gonna shock anyone. I've talked about it again, just sort of ad nauseum. Pokemon Emerald is, in my opinion, just top tier. It's Pokemon almost at its best. And it's just a great game. I put so many hours into this game on Game Boy that I wore out my battery, and I couldn't, like, my day settings wouldn't work anymore, like night and day, because I used to go in and change the time so you could hatch your eggs faster and stuff. But Emerald I played with friends, link cables, all that stuff. It's an incredibly good game. Franken thinks that Phil Collins is the man. Well, did he do the soundtrack for Brother Bear? Is that...
I want to know. Probably. I don't know.
Tarzan.
I guess so.
Now I'm curious.
Yeah, no, but Phil Collins did Tarzan.
No, I know that. And Tarzan is...
Rankin
yeah,
said yes.
He did,
oh, that's so cool.
Yep, okay. So I like Phil Collins.
I'm going to let my cat in really quick. She's
okay,
meowing.
You go ahead. So yeah, Emerald is it for me. Just, again, there's a lot of good Game Boy Advance games, but not going to comment on ones that I didn't play. So that's just sort of my mentality on this here. And for our final one, we
trying to break my door down.
The cat?
Yeah, I opened it and she was like up on the door and like
she's trying to get in. She wants a fag. Has she been quieter at least?
Oh yeah, she's well more adjusted.
There you go. It's been a week and you can actually sleep now. Okay, so your final. Oh my God, she's so cute. I can't even.
I know, right?
She's so surprised. She's like, "Why are you picking me up? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Put me the fuck down."
That's pretty much what
I didn't sign up for this. All right, so DS/3DS, pretty much anything from those. 3DS, another console, especially handheld, that just deserves a whole lot of love. You guys may notice that we skipped PSP, Vita, but we didn't have a lot of experience with those, and again, we just didn't want to talk about stuff we weren't skilled with. So, Nicole, go ahead and give us your pick here.
Yeah, I definitely played a bunch of games on DS, but I remember spending a lot of time with Pokemon Diamond, and then my brother had Pearl, so that was like a fun thing that we could do together. I really liked it when this came out. They had the cool like base building aspect where you could like have a little cave and like buy little Poke dolls or like Poke plushies at every what are they called? Stores? Pokestops? I forget. And then you could have your cave would have like a little Pikachu and all that. So I found that really fun as a kid. And then they had like the mining game too, where you could like dig for fossils and stuff. On top of it just being like a fun Pokemon game. That was just one that I spent a lot of time on.
Yeah, and mine is, again, another Pokemon game. That is...
It went back to the NES, by the way.
Did it? Oh, hold on a second. Sorry. Yeah, it's because I was tweaking something and it got messed up.
Memory unlocked. Same. A Powerpuff Girl game on Game Boy Color all the time, as Ori said, and then Radioactive said, wow, memory unlocked, same. I played one that was on PS1, which maybe was the same game, but it was a good one.
I don't know. I don't remember too much about Powerpuff Girls, but I don't know what happened there. It got completely thrown off, and that's because you know what happened? You want me to tell you what happened real quick in 2 seconds? I set this up, and I hotkeyed everything so I could quickly pop things on and off the screen, but I accidentally dual hotkeyed something, so when I hit one button, it triggers two separate things in the system, and I can't fix it live, so I just have had to sort of deal with it, but that's what's going on there. If you're listening to this podcast later, you won't have to deal with this, but if you're live, you've seen it, so... You know, anyway, Pokemon Soul Silver is mine. It's the best Pokemon game ever made. Some people will tell you that Black is better. I will tell you that they are wrong. I just think that overall, Soul Silver is probably everything you could want in a Pokemon game, and it's just, I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's extremely fun and really good, and the cat is now the focus. No one's listening to me anymore. They're all just looking at the cat. They're like, why is he still saying words? Look, she's absolutely adorable. It's the official mascot of the channel. Apparently I spelled the name wrong, but she was a pretty big hit on TikTok when I posted the clip. But yeah, that's mine. It's Soul Silver, and it's just a really good game as a whole. So that is where we're at with that. And so yeah, we've ran pretty long, obviously, which we expected. We almost had a guest on tonight's show, but I didn't think we'd be able to fit it in time-wise, and it looks like that was the right call.
Yes.
Just because of how things went. So to wrap this up here, we're gonna move right into our What's on the Horizon segment, kind of talk about what's on the horizon. So just tell us sort of where are you at in the upcoming week? Anything you got your
Grounded left early access, so if you pay attention to Xbox at all, it's one of their new IPs. it's pretty much like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids survival game. So you're just like shrunk down children like living in your backyard trying to survive, like build a base, don't get killed by spiders, the whole bit. So I want to try that with my friend because they have a whole story and all that, and it's co-op, so I'll be looking forward to trying that out. And then yeah, the same stuff, you know, watch She-Hulk weekly, keep up with Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. What else? Oh, I just finished Plague Tale. That was a very good game. I highly recommend it. It took me like 15 hours, I think, maybe a little more. And I played it looking for some stuff too, so it took me a little longer. And I finished Toem. So yeah, I've done a lot. Toem was a short PlayStation Plus game that I also recommend. It was only like 4 hours long. My cat's eating my hair. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. What about you?
So I am obviously still kind of playing through God of War, as I've said 1,000 times. I am caught up on She-Hulk. It's fantastic. I really like it a lot. I am very much, I've started getting into the spooky season a little bit, started watching some horror movies. I want to catch up on some stuff. I'm watching Fear Street right now, which is the Netflix trilogy of movies that came out, like, I think it was 2 years ago. We're not done yet, but it's absolutely great. I highly recommend it. Also watched Scream. And the new Halloween movie comes out in like 2 weeks, so I'm really pumped for that. So I'm starting to kind of shift into that, and as you know, I'm going to be traveling for work, so I don't think I'm going to have too much video game time, unfortunately, during that period, and, you know, that's a little bit of a bummer, but I'm pretty excited to kind of get into the season and maybe even play a horror game. I thought about finding something to stream, but yeah, Halloween's big for me, and on that mention, I want to give you guys a preview of our upcoming slate for the month of October. I will say that this is not fully set in stone yet, but these are loosely the topics we're going to be looking at. And I'm really pumped about all of it. So we are going to do a show pretty much dedicated entirely to horror movies with a special guest that will be announced shortly. Maybe talking about some of our favorites, upcoming things. The guest, you know, knows a lot about horror, so we'll give them the platform to talk. We're going to do a show about horror games, scary games, Halloween games, and really anything that kind of falls into that banner. Also with a guest. And then, whether it's, I don't know how we're going to work this other one out here. This one, another guest that is a good friend of mine personally, has a horror podcast, going to join us to talk their take on horror. We thought about having 2 guests on at once, but time-wise, that just feels like it takes away from those guests having an opportunity to share their opinions, and I'm sure that the horror movies that come up and the different topics of conversation will likely vary, so we can get these discussion topics with different guests. And, of course, one I'm probably most excited about, which was fully Nicole's idea, and I'm really pumped, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, is a candy draft. So, in other words, we are going to draft almost like we were drafting like a fantasy football team with a large pool of Halloween candy, and we're going to each draft our own sort of candy ranking sort of thing. I don't know the exact specifics of how it'll work out yet. This is the reason it was very loosely kind of defined here. But that's on the horizon, and that one will be obviously probably closest to Halloween.